Okay, let's pick up from where we left off the other day. Here's another practice problem. I want you to convert this number 531 base 8 to base 10. So, just like I said last time, if you want to convert it to base 10, every single digit needs to times 8 to the power of 0, 8 to the power of 1, 8 to the power of 2, and if you have more numbers, then it's going to be 8 to the power of 3, 8 to the power of 4, and 5, and so on. Okay? So 531, the first digit right here, 1, we're going to times 8 to the power of 0. So 8 to the power of 0 is 1, so that means 1 times 1 is 1. And then the next digit, 3. 3 times 8 to the power of 1. So that means 3 times 8, and then that would get you 24. And then the 5. 5 times 8 to the power of 2. So 5 times 64, which is 320. And then after you get these three numbers, you add them all up. And when you add them all up, 320 plus 24 plus 1, you get 345. And that would be in base 10. Okay, now let's talk about how to convert base 10 back to base 8. So right here, I have a number 36 in base 10. This little tiny 10, we call it a subscript. This number indicates which base a number is in. So usually we always deal with base 10 in all our daily lives, so we don't really use this tiny number. But right now, since we're talking about base 10 and base 8, so I'm going to put this tiny number, which means this is a 36 in base 10. So I have 6 rings right here, and then 3 rings right here. So keep in mind that every one of this means 10 of these right here. But it's just that right here, we will max out, right? So we can't have all 10 of them. We'll max out at 9. Once we go over 9, once we get to 10, we'll just put 1 right here. So each one of this means 10 of these right here. So right now, I'm going to shift everything back to the column on the right. If I shift all 3 of these to this column on the right, that means I'll have a 0 right here. I have nothing right here. But then I'll have 30 more rings on top of the 6. So let's take a look. I'm going to put everything on the column on the right. So all 36 of them is now on this column on the far right. And I want you to think about it. Remember, we're saying that every 10 of them, we're going to count it as one group. And then right here, so from 1 to 10, this is the first group. From 11 to 20, this is the second group of 10. And then from 21 to 30 is the third group of 10. And then plus the remaining 6. So altogether, you have 36 of them. And this 36 includes 3 groups of 10 plus the 6 remaining. And that's where we get the number 36 from. We have 3 groups of 10. Remember, 3 groups. Make sure you keep this in mind. 3 groups. And then plus the remaining 6. That is where we get the number 36 from. Because we have 3 groups and each group has 10 rings. So now if we look at this number in terms of base 8, the difference is we're not going to group them up every 10 rings. We're going to group them up every 8 rings. So let's see how many groups that we're going to get out of this. If we group them up every 8 rings, you are going to have something that looks like this. You will have 4 groups of 8 plus the 4 remaining. Okay, you have 4 groups of 8 plus the 4 that is remaining. So now the group number, we have 4 of them, right? We have 4 groups plus the remaining 4. That is how we get 44 in base 8. So if we want to do this with just the numbers, we're going to use division. So we have 36 divided by 8. And let's do a division. So 8 times 4, you're going to get 32. And then you're going to have 4 as a remainder. So we have 4 groups, and then plus the remaining 4. That means you'll have 44 in base 8. Okay. So we'll take this number, which indicates the groups, the number of groups, and then the remainder right here, which is this number right here. So this is 44 in base 8. Okay, so this time let's pick a bigger number. 345 in base 10, and we are trying to convert it back to base 8. So just like before, we're going to shift everything to the column on the far right. So keep this in mind. For this column, we have 4 rings, right? So each of these rings means 10 of these on this column. So that means you'll have an extra 40 right here. This one, however, each one of these means 10 of these right here, or 100 of them right here. So that means 3 of these right here. If I shift it to the column on the far right, you'll have an extra 300 of this on this column. All right, now let's shift everything to the right, to the column on the far right. So let's just pretend there are 345 rings on this column. I don't have the time to draw all 345 of them. That's too time consuming. So let's imagine there are 345 of them. And now I'm going to put them in groups of 8. So when I put them in groups of 8, like this, I'm going to have 43 groups of 8 with 1 remaining at the very top right here. And if I want to break them down even further, we're going to keep going until the number of groups right here is less than 8. So we're going to keep going to break them down even further. So the 43 groups of 8, when we break them down even further, it's going to end up being 5 groups of 8 plus 3 remaining, because there are 43, right? So 8 times 5, there's 40, and then there's a remainder of 3. All right, now let's try to do it with numbers. So when we do it with numbers, first we're going to do 345 divided by 8. So that means you have the 4 right here, and then 32, and then you have the 2 right here, put the 5 down here, and then 8 times 3 is 24, and then you have 1 remaining. So this is the 43 groups of 8 right here. And then now let's go one step further. We take this number divided by 8 again. So that means 8 times 5, which means that will get me 40. And then the remainder is 3. And that means you have 5 groups of 8, with the remainder of 3. We're going to keep going until this number right here is less than 8. Right now we're good, so we can stop right here. Once we stop, we're going to take this number, not that one, okay? We'll take this number, the number that is smaller than 8, and then we'll also take the remainder right here and right here. So that means the number 345 in base 10, when you convert it back to base 8, you'll get 531 in base 8. Okay, now let's do some practice problem. So let's practice convert from base 8 to base 10. Okay, so from base 8 to base 10. Well, how about 50 in base 8? Okay, from base 8 to base 10, we have to take every digit and then times it with 8 to the power of 0, 8 to the power of 1, 8 to the power of 2, and so on. So right here, I'm going to take the 0. I'm going to take the 0 right here. And 0 times 8 to the power of 0, which is 0 times 1, which is 0. And then the next digit, the 5 right here. So 5 times 8 to the power of 1, which means 5 times 8, so you get 40. And then after that, add them up. So 40 plus 0 equals 40. So that would be 40 in base 10. Okay. All right, now let's try a little bigger number. So how about 731 in base 8? And then we are trying to convert it back to base 10. So every digit times 8 to the power of 0, 8 to the power of 1, 8 to the power of 2, and so on. So let's pick the 1 right here. So that means 1 times 8 to the power of 0, which is 1. And then the next digit right here, 3. 3 times 8 to the power of 1. So that would be 24. And then the last digit right here, 7. So 7 times 8 to the power of 2. So that means 7 times 64. So when you put it in a calculator, that will get you 448. And then after you get all three numbers, add them all up. So 448 plus 24 plus 1, that will get you 473 in base 10. Okay, so that is how you go from base 8 to base 10. All right, now let's try to go from base 10 back to base 8. Let's do 28 in base 10. So let's do some division. So division, how about 28, and then we'll divide it by 8. So 8 times 3 gets you 24, and then 28 minus 24, you get 4. So we'll take this number, make sure the number is smaller than 8, and then take the remainder. So that means the number is going to be 34 in base 8. Okay, and then next one, how about let's do 577. Okay, so we do division again. So let's do 577 divided by 8. That means you get 7 and then 56, and then you have 1 left, and then 7 right here, and then 8 times 2, you get your 16, and then remainder of 1. All right, this number 72 is too big. We have to keep going, okay? We have to keep going. So we're going to take this number, put it right here, and then put 8. So 72 divided by 8, so that means 8 times 9, and then you get 72. No remainder, so we'll put a 0 right here. The number 9 is still too big. We have to keep going. So right here, 9 divided by 8. So that means 8 times 1, is 8, and then the remainder is 1. And then we're going to take this number right here, the 1, and then also all the remainders, which means when we take all the numbers together, we should take this number 1, and then the remainder right here, the number 0 right here, and then the 1 right here, and then that would be in base 8. So make sure you take the last number up here and also the remainders in this order. Okay, it has to be in this order, not the other way around. Okay.